Hey guys, well, welcome to Week 14, the first week of the Midwest Fantasy Football Playoffs in Season 6. Quarterfinal number 1 in the championship bracket. Saved by the Bell Brandon defeats I'm Gumby, damn it, Pulp 1.0, 117.46 to 110.16, a 7.3 point margin of victory. Le'Veon Bell decided to pick his team and his namesake up and carry them on his back this week, scoring a whopping 35 points in the shootout versus Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. Gumby's Big Ben Roethlisberger was second in scoring in this matchup, putting up 31.75 points in that same game for the losing squad, of course. Despite Gumby having the third highest scoring player in this game, Alex Collins, again, the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. What a game. Adding 26.6 points of his own, Pope 1.0 fell behind in this matchup at the tight end position, with Cameron Brate putting up 10 points less than Kyle Rudolph. That easily covered up the 7.3 point margin of victory. Brandon with the win here snaps Pope 1.0's 5-game winning streak that he took off on to make it into the playoffs. And finally, with the win, Brandon secures his first ever win in the postseason. So congratulations on that. With the win, you'll move on next week to play Derek and his love of bouncing breasticles. In championship quarterfinal number 2, Pray for Mojo Jason defeats the second coming of Pope 2.0, 130.92 to 104.78, a 26.14 margin of victory. Pray for Mojo finally decided to break DeAndre Hopkins out of his in case of playoff matchup case, and he went off against San Francisco this week, racking up 33.4 points to lead the matchup in scoring. The second highest scorer in this playoff matchup is a bittersweet tale, as Carson Wentz's 27.25 points helped Jason grab a win during the first round of the playoffs, but will assist no more, as he's now been lost for the season with an ACL for Philadelphia. As for the second coming, Shady McCoy must be part Eskimo or something, because it seems like he sure loves to play in snow games. Despite the near blizzard conditions in Buffalo this weekend, McCoy led the coming in scoring with 24.6 points, narrowly edging out Dirty Phil's 23.75 points. With this game being a 26-point game, there's no single player that could have covered the difference for Pope 2, with maybe the exception of Odell Beckham Jr., but the 0 points from Jimmy Graham and the 0.5 points from Pittsburgh's defense in that shootout really didn't help the cause. With the win, Jason moves on to face Chris's John Bobbitts in the second semifinal, and with the loss, the only two-time champion loses out in his bid to grab a third win, which many of us were probably happy about, despite this probably being your reaction. Man. In the deuce bracket, quarterfinal number 1, Gridiron Junkies Andy defeats Down Goes Teddy Lee, 127.12 to 91.7, a healthy 35-point margin of victory. Andy, the running back whisperer, busted out the big guns this week with Jordan Howard's 31 points, pairing nicely with the recently out of his midseason coma, Kareem Hunt, adding 24.3 points himself. Of course, Jarvis Landry and Golden Tate adding another 40 points at the wide receiver position certainly didn't hurt either. In the loss, the Teddies were led by 25.4 points from Devontae Adams and 14.2 points from Jared Goff, who appears to be maybe cooling off from his hot stretch he had earlier in the year. But Lee, fear not, just in time for your playoff matchup next week, that's Aaron Rodgers music. At the time of writing/recording this, which is 10:35 on Tuesday night, Aaron Rodgers recently announced that he has been medically cleared to resume playing for the Green Bay Packers. We'll see if that's what the management and Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson decide to do, or if they're going to leave him on the bench next week. But you may be getting Mr. Rodgers back in time for next week. Hopefully he can play for you, and perhaps he can secure you from potentially grabbing your second deuce. Hey, you can even share it with your second child now that that one's on the way. So congratulations on that. Lee, you're going to be moving on next week with the loss, so you'll be moving on to face Josh, top overall seed in the deuce bracket. And finally, deuce bracket quarterfinal matchup number 2, Gronky Kong myself defeats T-Boeing 747 Nick 113.98 to 102.22, an 11.76 point margin of victory. This was a fairly close matchup as the top scorers from each team were only separated by 0.2 of a point, with Leonard Fournette coming out on top ahead of Michael Thomas, 22.9 to 22.7. Fortunately for me, the 20 points I got from Cooper Kupp by benching Emmanuel Sanders finally, and the 19 points I got from my kicker Chris Boswell in that Sunday Night Football game were enough to make up for the smaller scores I got from Kenny Stills and Alex Smith. For Nick in the losing effort, he had 5 different players besides Michael Thomas put up double digits, but was unable to fix the special teams issues that have been plaguing them in the last couple weeks. After only recording 2 points from kicker Nick Rose last week and a negative 2.88 points from Detroit's defense, this week showed no improvement in the kicking game as Rose missed a PAT and made a PAT for a net 0 points. Detroit's defense did rebound nicely with a 14.7 point game versus Tampa Bay. With Andy securing a win and me grabbing a win, that leaves Nick with the only person who does not have a Deuce trophy. With the loss, Nick moves on to face Dak Deuce Drew, our current Deuce, in next week's Deuce semifinal number 2. The only wager update, Nick and I had our standard Buffalo Wild Wings wager, which I now have secured from him, grabbing my 3rd win of the year, putting me 3-0 versus Nick this year in our 2 leagues, so good for me. Clearly my potato team is superior to his potato team. I don't need to preview everybody's matchups because I talked about everyone that's going to be moving on and who's playing who next week. Good luck to everybody next weekend. As a final note, after this weekend's games, if you are eliminated, aka not playing for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or in the Deuce bracket, I will be locking your teams so you can no longer make adds or drops to interfere. We don't want to prevent anybody from interfering potentially with any of the championship matchups where there might be money or a loser trophy on the line. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.